My family stole my salary for my golden child brother and left me homeless. When they showed up at my penthouse, my lawyer was waiting. My parents secretly drained my bank accounts to fund my deadbeat brother's fake influencer lifestyle, then threw my belongings onto the front lawn on my 29th birthday. Exactly 1 year later, they showed up at my luxury penthouse demanding to move in, unaware that my lawyer was inside, holding the very documents that would send them to federal prison. Original post. I am Liam, 29 years old. To understand how my own flesh and blood could justify trying to steal my life, you have to understand the nightmare I barely escaped. For the first 28 years of my life, my entire world was a suffocating, crumbling two-story house at the dead end of a declining neighborhood in Chicago. The paint on the exterior was peeling off in large gray flakes, and the inside constantly smelled of damp wood, old cooking oil, and unidentifiable mustiness. That house was built entirely on unequal expectations. I worked as a senior data analyst for a mid-sized tech firm downtown. It was a grueling job, staring at complex spreadsheets and predictive models until my eyes burned, but I was exceptionally good at it, and my salary reflected that. However, my bank account rarely saw the benefits of my labor. The moment my paycheck cleared, the vast majority of it was transferred directly into my father Arthur's checking account. I paid the electricity. I paid the water and gas. I paid the exorbitant high-speed internet bill. I even bought all the groceries. When the roof started leaking right over the kitchen, my father claimed they were completely broke. I had to halt my 401k contributions and drain my emergency savings to pay the contractors. Did I receive any gratitude? Absolutely not. My financial contributions were treated as a mandatory tax for my existence. My mother, Martha, was the orchestrator of this misery. Every evening when I walked through the door exhausted, she would be sitting there, perpetually unsatisfied. Liam, she would scoff, not looking up from her phone. When are you going to stop playing with numbers and get a real job? Look at the Vance boy down the street. He's a corporate lawyer. And what do? Make little charts for the internet. You're a failure. That. And then there was my younger brother, Leo. Leo is 27, but he was treated like a fragile, precious artifact. Shortly after dropping out of community college, he decided he was going to be an influencer. He bought expensive cameras, ring lights, and designer clothing, spending his days making highly edited, vapid videos pretending he lived a life of luxury. He never lifted a finger. While I was at the grocery store carefully calculating the cost of generic brand pasta to ensure we stayed within budget, Leo was ordering $60 gourmet sushi deliveries using Martha's credit card. Whenever I confronted my parents about this glaring double standard, Arthur would yell, "Leave your brother alone, he is building a brand. He is going to be a millionaire soon, and then we will all be taken care of." It was a slow, agonizing funeral for my self-worth. But I stayed because society brainwashes you into believing that setting a boundary with family is an act of betrayal. Then came my 29th birthday. I genuinely thought that for one single day, we could pretend to be a normal family. I had been saving up a little bit of cash hidden from Arthur's constant demands, and I bought a beautiful, expensive cheesecake from a high-end bakery downtown. I texted Martha asking if we could all sit down together after dinner. Her reply was brief, "We'll see. We might have plans." I left work at 6 p.m., feeling a small, foolish flicker of hope. I drove through the familiar streets, turning onto our dead-end road. As my house came into view, my heart stopped. I slammed on the brakes so hard the cake box flew off the seat and smashed onto the floorboard. My belongings were scattered across the front lawn. Black trash bags stuffed with my clothes were tossed haphazardly onto the dying grass. My winter coats were draped over the porch railing. My books were dumped in a pile on the driveway, and my computer monitor was sitting dangerously close to a puddle of dirty water. I leaped out of the car, my chest heaving. Martha, Arthur, and Leo were standing on the porch, watching me with cold, calculating expressions. "What is this?" I gasped, my voice trembling. "Did we get robbed?" Martha took a step forward, looking down at me. "It is time for you to move out, Liam. You are no longer welcome in this house." I froze. "Move out? It's my birthday, where am I supposed to go?" "That is not our problem," Martha replied, entirely devoid of empathy. "We need the space. Leo's brand is expanding, and he needs your bedroom to build a proper recording studio. We cannot have you dragging down the energy of this house anymore." I looked at Arthur, pleading silently. "Dad, you're letting her do this? I pay the bills. I keep the lights on." Arthur looked at the ground, shuffling his feet. "Listen to your mother, it's for the best." Leo leaned against the doorframe with a smug smirk. "Maybe you should have thought about securing your own place instead of being such a massive burden all these years, bro. Time to be a real man." A burden. I had bled myself dry to keep a roof over their heads. "Why today?" I asked, tears spilling down my cheeks. "Why on my birthday?" Martha looked me dead in the eye. "Consider it our gift to you. Independence. Frankly, you need to grow up." She turned and walked back inside. Leo gave me a mock salute and slammed the heavy wooden door shut. The deadbolt clicked. I dropped to my knees on the dirty concrete. Suddenly, I heard the squeak of a screen door. Our elderly neighbor, Mr. Vance, a retired veteran who kept to himself, walked slowly across the lawn. He looked at the trash bags with profound disgust. He didn't offer empty platitudes. He simply reached into his worn cardigan, pulled out 2 folded $100 bills, and pressed them firmly into my shaking hand. "You are better off, son, Mr. Vance said roughly. "Some trees are completely rotten at the roots. You have to cut them down before they fall on you." I spent the next 2 hours frantically stuffing my belongings into my car, every item feeling like a fresh wave of humiliation. I drove away without looking back. I found a cheap, run-down motel on the outskirts of the city, paid for a week up front in cash, and sat on the edge of the lumpy mattress in a room that smelled of stale cigarette smoke and cheap bleach. I cried until my throat was raw. But as the sun began to rise, casting a pale gray light into that miserable room, my crushing sorrow began to harden. It crystallized into pure, unadulterated rage. Update 1. I thought the betrayal was simply a matter of cruelty and favoritism. I had no idea a massive financial conspiracy was hiding just beneath the surface. The first few days in that motel were a masterclass in survival. I became a machine. I threw myself into my data analysis campaigns with a ferocity I had never tapped into before. I was the first one in the building at dawn and the last to leave. But you cannot outrun trauma forever. On a Thursday night, past 9 p.m., my hands were shaking from too much caffeine and too little nutrition. That's when Elena, our CEO, walked over. Elena is a formidable woman in her late 40s who built the firm from the ground up. She sat down opposite me. "Liam, your work is flawless, but you look like a walking corpse. You're wearing the same tie 3 days in a row. What is going on?" I tried to lie, but Elena's gaze pierced right through me. The dam shattered. I broke down and told her everything: the years of financial abuse, Leo, the birthday eviction, the flickering neon sign at the motel. Elena didn't offer pity. She offered a plan. "Pack your things from that disgusting motel," she ordered. "My husband David and I have a large house in the suburbs. Our oldest son just left for college. You are moving in tomorrow, rent-free, until you find a proper apartment. I will not have my best analyst living like a stray dog." Moving into Elena and David's home was like stepping onto another planet. They treated me with basic human kindness. David, a successful commercial real estate investor, started giving me advice on building wealth. For the first time, I felt safe. With my living situation stabilized, I reached out to my best friend from college, Nathan. Nathan is a high-powered corporate lawyer specializing in financial disputes. Over stakes, I laid out my entire financial history with my parents. Nathan listened, his tone deadly serious. "People do not violently kick their primary source of income out of the house just to build a recording studio for a failed influencer. The math doesn't add up. I need you to authorize me to run background checks on their public financial records." A week later, Nathan called me into his mahogany-paneled office. He pushed a highlighted manila folder across the desk. I did a deep dive. What I found is bordering on criminal negligence. About 8 months ago, your golden child brother Leo decided to play day trader. He took out massive personal loans for fraudulent cryptocurrency schemes. The market tanked. Leo is currently over $180,000 in debt. I gasped. "How?" "He doesn't even have a job. He used your parents' house as collateral," Nathan said grimly. "Arthur co-signed the loans. When the creditors knocked, your parents panicked. They took out a massive second mortgage, just to keep Leo out of bankruptcy court. But here is the part that will make you sick. I traced the utility accounts, the electricity, water, internet, they've all been delinquent for months. The money you transferred to Arthur every single month, it never went to the utilities. Arthur and Martha were funneling every cent of your hard-earned salary to pay the high-interest premiums on Leo's crypto debt." I sat frozen. They didn't kick me out because I was a burden. They kicked me out because the well had run dry. They had squeezed every drop of financial blood out of me, and when the creditors threatened foreclosure, they evicted me to cover their tracks. My own parents cannibalized my life to protect the golden child. Because they were so sloppy, Nathan continued, their entire financial house of cards is about to collapse. The IRS is already sniffing around Arthur's sudden influx of cash. They are drowning, Liam, and soon, they're going to come looking for a life raft. "They're not getting a life raft," I whispered, a surge of terrifying clarity washing over me. "I'm going to build a fortress. And when they come begging, I'm going to watch them drown." Over the next 8 months, I transformed into an absolute powerhouse. I spearheaded a predictive modeling algorithm that brought the firm millions in new revenue. Elena called me into her office and slid a new contract across the desk. "I am officially promoting you to lead director. You're getting a 45% salary increase, plus a substantial performance bonus." With my new wealth, it was time to buy my fortress. David connected me with a shark real estate agent. We found a stunning, top-floor luxury condo in a highly secure gated community on Maple Avenue. It had biometric security and a private elevator. But before closing, I sat down with Nathan. I don't want my name on the public records. If my parents search for me, I want them to find a ghost. Nathan smiled a predatory smile. We're setting up a private irrevocable trust. The trust will legally own the real estate. Even if your parents file a frivolous lawsuit, they cannot touch the house. It is a financial vault. I moved in, and for a few weeks, it was pure bliss. Then, the illusion shattered. I got a frantic call from an unknown number. It was Leo. His smug arrogance was gone, he sounded terrified. Liam, please. Dad lost his job. Mom maxed her cards. The bank is foreclosing. Can you wire us some money for the mortgage? The unmitigated gall. You stood on the porch and laughed while Mom threw my life into the dirt. I replied coldly. You stole my utility money for your crypto debt. I know everything. You dug your own grave. Now lie in it. I hung up and blocked him. 3 days later, I was having lunch with a mutual college acquaintance, Tom. Casually, Tom said, heard you got some serious new real estate on Maple Avenue. Good for you, man. My blood ran cold. Only Elena, David, and Nathan knew my address. I stared Tom down until he cracked, sweating. Look, Arthur called me crying. He offered me $600 to find out where you lived. I just checked your location history on an old app we shared. They're your parents, Liam. I dropped a 20 on the table, lose my number. I immediately called Nathan. They have my address. Tom sold me out for $600. Don't panic, Nathan said, instantly switching to lawyer mode. The trust is ironclad. If they show up, you call the police. I'm not going to hide, I told him, gripping the steering wheel. If they come to my door, I am going to end this once and for all. Update 2. The tension in my foyer was suffocating. Martha stood perfectly in the center of my meticulously clean hardwood floors, her muddy shoes leaving smudges. She had just screamed directly into my face, threatening to call the police and file false charges of elder abuse if I didn't hand over the keys to my luxury condo. She truly believed she held the winning cards. She expected me to crumble and beg for forgiveness. But I was not alone. What Martha, Arthur, and Leo didn't realize was that I was hosting a very private housewarming gathering that exact afternoon. As Martha finished her unhinged rant about family obligations, the heavy custom-built oak doors to my dining room silently swung open. Stepping out was Elena, my CEO, wearing a razor-sharp tailored blazer, looking like she was about to dismantle a rival company. Right behind her was her husband David, projecting an imposing physical presence, and standing next to David was Nathan, adjusting his expensive suit. Elena had her smartphone raised at chest level. The red recording light was blinking steadily, capturing every single second of the confrontation in crisp high-definition video. Martha instantly froze. Her mouth snapped shut so fast I heard her teeth click. Arthur physically took a step backward, bumping into a marble side table. Leo's arrogant smirk melted into genuine rising panic. Elena took one deliberate step forward. Her voice was perfectly calm but echoed with executive power. She looked directly into my mother's eyes and stated that every threat of extortion had just been recorded. She informed Martha that threatening a fraudulent lawsuit to steal real estate was a severe criminal offense, and as a prominent business owner, she would be thrilled to hand the raw footage to the district attorney. Martha's face flushed a violent crimson. The sheer audacity of being challenged by a woman with far more power shattered her fragile ego. She pointed a shaking finger at Elena, screaming that this was a private family matter and demanding everyone leave before she reported a home invasion. I stepped smoothly between them. Elena and David put a roof over my head when you threw me onto the concrete on my birthday. They are my honored guests. You three are committing criminal trespass. Leo, desperately trying to salvage his pride, puffed out his chest. You owe us this house, Liam. Mom and Dad drained their savings for your childhood. It's your moral obligation to give us this condo as our inheritance. A masterclass in staggering delusion. Their inheritance was currently facing aggressive foreclosure because they mortgaged it to pay for his fake influencer career. At that exact moment, Nathan stepped forward. He unclasped his leather briefcase and slapped a thick stack of official legal documents onto my marble kitchen island with a sharp crack that sounded like a gunshot. Arthur flinched. Nathan introduced himself as my retained legal counsel. He looked at Arthur with the clinical detachment of a surgeon examining a tumor. He explained that Martha's threat of a lawsuit was laughably absurd. He challenged Arthur to stand before a judge and explain how they planned to sue their son for financial abandonment when that same son possessed years of certified bank records proving he funded their lives right up until they violently evicted him. Martha tried to interrupt, screaming about blood obligations. Nathan didn't even raise his voice, he just talked right over her, his words cutting like a scalpel. He told her to close her mouth and listen carefully because the reality of their situation was far worse than simply being homeless. Nathan picked up the first document, highlighting the embossed state seal. He explained the concept of an irrevocable private wealth trust. He told them, watching their faces contort in shock, that my name was nowhere on the property deed. This luxury condo, and all its equity, was legally locked inside a financial vault immune to any personal liability claims or familial demands. Leo's jaw literally dropped. The golden goose was encased in bulletproof glass, but Nathan was just getting warmed up. He picked up a significantly thicker folder with bright red adhesive flags. He turned his laser-like intensity onto Arthur. While investigating your fraudulent transfer of Liam's utility payments, we uncovered a much more dangerous pattern of behavior. Hiding consumer debt from your son is one thing. Blatantly lying to the federal government is an entirely different game. Arthur began to physically tremble. His knees visibly shook. Nathan laid it out with brutal clarity. For 5 consecutive years, Arthur and Martha had claimed massive, entirely fraudulent deductions on their federal tax returns. They illegally wrote off Leo's designer clothing, camera equipment, and lavish lifestyle as legitimate business expenses for an influencer company that generated zero taxable revenue. Furthermore, they actively hid the thousands in cash I gave them, failing to report it as income while fraudulently claiming state low-income assistance to subsidize their property taxes. Martha gasped loudly, covering her mouth. Her entitled posture collapsed. As an officer of the court, Nathan smiled coldly. My firm has a strict legal obligation to report suspected major federal tax fraud. A comprehensive dossier, including the forged signatures on your second mortgage, has already been submitted to IRS investigators. A full-scale federal audit is in motion. You are looking at massive financial penalties, total property seizure, and potentially significant federal prison time for wire fraud and tax evasion. The silence in the room was profoundly satisfying. Leo backed away from his mother so fast he almost tripped. The golden child instantly threw his parents under the bus, throwing his hands up and frantically stammering that he had absolutely nothing to do with their taxes and never signed any forms. Martha looked at me, tears of genuine terror forming. The arrogance was replaced by naked desperation. She took a trembling step toward me, begging me to call Nathan off, pleading with me to use my massive salary to hire them a criminal defense attorney. You can't let your own parents go to federal prison. She sobbed. I looked down at her outstretched hands. I remembered the exact tone of her voice when she told me my violent eviction was a birthday gift. I looked her dead in the eye and said, consider the IRS audit my special gift of true independence to you. It's time you finally grow up. Before Martha could unleash another hysterical scream, heavy authoritative footsteps echoed on the porch. A loud, commanding knock rattled the doorframe. I opened it to find Officer Hayes, a stern-faced veteran of the local police, accompanied by a broad-shouldered rookie. Nathan had called the non-emergency line 30 minutes before my family arrived, anticipating this exact trespassing scenario. I informed Officer Hayes that these 3 individuals were trespassing and engaging in verbal extortion. Martha tried to play the victim one last time, crying hysterically to the officers that I was a confused child having a mental breakdown. Elena smoothly stepped forward and showed Officer Hayes the clear video footage of Martha explicitly threatening the fake elder abuse lawsuit to steal the condo. Officer Hayes' expression turned to stone. He pointed a firm finger toward the street and ordered them off the property immediately, warning that a single second of hesitation would result in them leaving in steel handcuffs. Arthur's spirit completely shattered. He pushed past the officers, head down, and walked to his rusted sedan. Leo followed, pulling his hood up, terrified of jail time. Martha was the last to leave. She stood in the doorway, looking back at me with the highly toxic, venomous hatred of a predator who suddenly realized she was the prey. She turned in defeat and walked away. But the universe had one final, mind-blowing twist waiting in the wings. A week later, I was sitting on my balcony when I received a long, rambling text from an unknown number. It was from my Aunt Beatrice, Arthur's older sister. Beatrice had always played the sweet, caring peacemaker at family gatherings. Her text was a pathetic attempt at reconciliation, claiming she was heartbroken over our family division. But at the very end, almost as an afterthought, she asked if she could move into my spare bedroom because she was experiencing unexpected financial trouble. My instincts flared. I screenshot the text and sent it to Nathan. 10 minutes later, he color-cripped me, sounding grim. Prompted by my message, Nathan had dug deeper into the historical wire transfers between my family members. Arthur and Martha didn't just owe crypto creditors. They were in massive, crippling debt directly to Aunt Beatrice. Years ago, Beatrice had masterminded an illegal scheme involving a fake inheritance claim to siphon money from a distant relative's estate. She used Arthur as the public frontman to sign forged documents. When the scam fell apart, Arthur legally owed Beatrice $65,000 to cover her emergency criminal defense fees. The massive twist hit me like a freight train. Beatrice wasn't a sweet peacemaker, she was a cold-blooded puppet master. When Leo lost everything and the house faced foreclosure, Beatrice realized she was never getting her $65,000 back from my bankrupt parents. So, she pointed them directly at my new wealth. Nathan legally subpoenaed ISP records and found highly incriminating emails between Beatrice and Martha dated exactly 3 days before the condo invasion. Beatrice had explicitly ordered Martha to go to my house, demand to move in, and threaten the fake lawsuit to extort a cash settlement so they could pay her back. The very woman who hugged me at Thanksgiving engineered the violent home invasion that nearly shattered my peace. I didn't reply with anger. I simply forwarded the entire PDF file of her incriminating emails to her phone, followed by a single sentence: "Do not ever attempt to contact me again, or these emails go directly to the district attorney to be added to Arthur's federal fraud case." I blocked her permanently, severing the final diseased root of my family tree. 2 years have passed. Tonight, I am standing on the wraparound balcony of my luxury condo, looking out over the glittering city skyline. Parked securely downstairs is my brand new midnight black Audi R8, a daily physical reminder that unbreakable boundaries yield powerful rewards. My independent data analytics firm has tripled in size. Elena and David come over for dinner monthly, and Nathan is practically a brother to me. They are my chosen family. As for my biological family, the IRS thoroughly completed their audit. The massive fines forced Arthur and Martha into total, unrecoverable bankruptcy. They are currently renting a tiny, run-down apartment in a dangerous part of town, constantly dodging debt collectors. Leo is working the deep fry station at a local fast food drive-thru, his influencer delusions buried under the inescapable reality of minimum wage labor. Aunt Beatrice vanished from the state, terrified of federal authorities. Society pushes the false narrative that blood is everything, that you must endure abuse because someone shares your DNA. But sitting in that cheap motel room years ago, I realized the undeniable truth: blood does not make a family. Respect, unwavering loyalty, and unconditional support make a family. You absolutely do not owe your abusers your precious time, your hard-earned money, or your peace of mind. Protecting your inner peace is not selfish. It is an act of profound self-love. Build your fortress, and never let anyone make you feel guilty for surviving the fire they intentionally started. Top comments. User 1. The fact that Aunt Beatrice was pulling the strings the entire time is actually insane. She played the sweet aunt while literally orchestrating a mob-style shakedown on her own nephew. Forwarding her the PDF and blocking her was the ultimate boss move. User 2. I got literal chills when Nathan slapped that briefcase on the Marble Island. Consider the IRS audit my special gift of true independence to you. Oh my god, you used her exact traumatic birthday words against her, while legally nuking her life. Pure cinema. User 3. Elena and David are the real MVPs here. So many corporate bosses would just fire an employee whose work is slipping due to trauma. Instead, she gave you a safe place to sleep, and then stood in your foyer recording your abusers to protect you. That is what true family looks like. Enjoy that Audi R8, you earned every single piece of it.